one story. Do you want this? Or shall we just move this so we can see you? Thank you. Which is much better. Ready for MEG PHILP.
The story I'd like to tell comes from a Japanese tradition. It's a legend, so therefore it is based in some truth, as legends often are. And it's set in the times before Westerners were allowed in Japan, in the time of the daimyos and shoguns. And it's set in a small village way up in the mountains, very poor. Subsistence farming. And the legend was adapted and made into a movie by a very famous Japanese filmmaker called, it was entitled The Ballad of Narayama. I have seen it, I've never been the same since. So, the story goes something like this. Long, long ago in ancient Japan, there was a custom in those villages where people worked hard for a living and food was scarce, that when someone reached the age of 60, they would be carried up the mountain by their eldest child, eldest son, carried up the mountain and left there. They would be abandoned. It was called 60-year canyon abandonment. And because it was feudal times, the peasants, the locals, dare not disobey their ruler someday. And so it was that in villages in that part of Japan, everybody knew birthdays. And there was a young man who loved his mother, and he was not keen. She was making marks on the wall about how many days she had left. He didn't want to have to take her up the mountain. He said she had the day wrong, but no, she had it right. Everybody in the village knew. And the way they did when they knew that someone was being taken up the canyon, everybody stayed inside early on the day of her birthday. And he, as custom demanded, got down in front of her, and she climbed on his back, and he carried her up the mountain path. As they were going up there, the wind was coming in strong from the mountain. It was obviously winter coming on early. A bit of snow was blowing through the breeze. And as he was going, every now and again he'd feel a tug and he'd shift his mother up a bit more. Are you sure about this, mother? Yes, yes, just keep walking, we'll soon be there. But every now and again he would stop and she would have leaves or things in her hands. So what are you doing? She said, I'm just breaking off branches so that make sure that you follow this path back down the mountain once you've left me up there. And he couldn't. I mean, she was too kind. She was too smart. He couldn't leave her there. He got to the top. It was a rocky canyon. There was a few sort of suspicious looking markers around. He put her down and she said, well, son, off you go. And she said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't leave you here. I'm going to take you back. She tried arguing with him, but in the end, she relented. She was tired. She wanted to go to bed. She'd been awake all night. So he carried her back down the mountain, kept her hidden outside the village. And then when it was dark, he went and got her. By that time, he'd cleared a space underneath what seemed to be the front steps. You'd call it a veranda, but it was just a little shack with a platform on the front. And he covered it in, and when there was no one around, he went back up and picked her up and brought her down and put her in underneath the stairs. People came out the next day and shook their heads when they saw him in sympathy. He said nothing, but he made sure that his mother had what she needed. Made sure she was warm, made sure that she got food, and he kept up that subterfuge for quite some time. And he was always afraid he'd be found out. But word came through the head man of the village that the daimyo had set a challenge and wanted a smart man to come and work for him. And so he issued a challenge, and that challenge was whoever could bring him a rope of ash would be in his employ from then on. And everybody in the village talked together. Oh, it would be an opportunity to get out of the village. A rope of ash. Nobody could figure out how to do it. A young man I talked about, he thought, I'll ask my mother, she'll know. So he went and whispered there, laid on it right. Mother, rope of ash, how can I do it? She told him, just get a rope very tightly wound. Set fire to it, but make sure you've got a tray or something that you can take with you when you show them the rope of ash. So he did that, and the rope of ash was presented to the Daimon. He looked at the young man. How did you manage? How did you know this? I just thought that would work, and it did. And he was given some reward because the Daimon wasn't real keen to have such a peasant. He was hoping for someone a bit higher up. A few weeks later, the challenge was the Daimon wanted a conch shell with a thread all the way through it from the big opening to the little one at the end. Nobody knew how to do it, but the young man waited until everybody had gone to bed and he crept around the side of the house and whispered to his mother and told her. She said, oh, that's really easy. All you need to do is get an ant and tie a thread around it, as you would, and put a little drop of honey on the front of it, and it will follow the honey and hold the conch shell up to the light and put the ant in there and it will go up to the light. So, when the Daimon saw this, he said, this is the second time you've come here. How did you manage to work this out? I mean, you're just a peasant. You just work in the fields. And in the end, he felt sure he'd find out anyway. He admitted, it was my mother. Your mother? Where is she? Well, she was 60, and I have to confess that I did not leave her. I did not abandon her in the canyon as you decree, because I'm too attached to her. I love her so much, and I've been sheltering her since then. Oh, perhaps she's kin. We do need older people because they're wiser. This rule about 60 years, I've decided to revoke it. From now on, we will revere our older people in our villages. We need them. We need to go to them for guidance. We need to listen to their stories. We need to find out about life from them. And that is how it came that in that village and in that district, no old people were ever carried up the mountain and abandoned ever again, but were revered as the wise and venerable elders that they were.
Thanks for